Now let's get back to our top story, and that is healthcare. We have heard from nurses in Ontario who say they have been pushed to their limits, this immense strain on our system. One nurse finally decided enough was enough. Have a listen.
And I'm just typing up my 2 weeks notice to quit my job.
And that was Emily Bai. She is now working in a hospital in the U.S. She joins us live now. Good morning to you, Emily.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. And, you know, it is unfortunate that you had to get to that point. But let's go backwards a little bit. Tell us about being an ICU nurse in Ontario and what the last little while had been for you. What was it like?
So I believe my experience might be a little bit different than most ICU nurses. I was a newly kind of ICU nurse into the pandemic. So I started working kind of amidst all of these shortages. So I've been an ICU nurse in Ontario for about 8 months. I was working at a large trauma center before I left. But a lot of my colleagues have been ICU nurses for 10, 20 years, and they've been working at the bedside for a long time. And this has been probably one of the most severe shortages from our conversations that they've seen in like decades.
So when people hear the stories of nurses, there is no over-exaggeration here. We are seeing departments shut down. We are seeing the stress and strain, and the shortage is really a big problem. Was that your main motivator to get out? Was it the stress? Was it the strain? Or was it a combination of everything?
It was definitely one of the two reasons. Obviously, there were some like personal reasons of why I wanted to move as well, being kind of younger, and I just wanted to give another city a chance. But another big reason was definitely the shortage, because in my, nursing career, like it was stressful. We were already short all the time, and I couldn't really see any improvement in the next short while. So for me, it just didn't really make sense to stay and work and just be stressed and like short all the time. We were losing nurses. A good percent of our staff also left. So for me, it was just, it was a good choice, or it made sense in the current moment.
When we look at even wages for nurses and the disparity here, going to the U.S., how big of a difference does that make?
Definitely, there is still a nursing shortage everywhere. So it's not like going to the U.S. solved the situation completely. But wages-wise, I was getting like doubled compared to what I was getting paid in Canada. Obviously, there's also the living expenses in the city that I'm living in is also fairly. There's a fair increase in that as well, but I do feel like there's a better compensation scale and there's better job opportunities and for growth from moving from Ontario.
Emily, how concerned are you now that you are out of Ontario right now? You're seeing the system in the city that you are in. Can we say where you are working right now?
Yes. Yeah.
You're in New York right now. Mm-hmm. When you see, watch the visuals, you hear the stories from back home, you knew the conversations that were ongoing. Do you think that there's going to be any easy fix here, anything that the province can do to retain nurses, to keep young nurses like yourselves and also those with experience, decades of experience from leaving?
I don't think there's a very short fix. I feel like this will have to take, a system kind of change. It's kind of been like a slow bleed. Like we've been seeing it since the pandemic. It's been 2 years. There's been more and more nurses leaving, and all these talks by hospitals, by the province about retention plans. I don't really hear or see anything that helps retain these nurses. I hear about like short-term fix solutions. They did the $5,000 retention bonus, but that honestly didn't really stop from what I saw on my unit. From nurses leaving, everyone was still going through with their plan of whether it was leaving bedside, a career change, or moving countries, or taking on travel contracts. I believe it's gonna have to take a huge kind of new change to be able to encourage these nurses to come back or to retain the current nurses.
Yeah, indeed, this is not an overnight fix. Emily, appreciate you taking the time with us today. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you for having me.